Night 28. At Oolana, Bane pulls Avery Lee aside and asks her to explain what she did at Tribal Council. He crosses his arms and waits for her to respond. Avery Lee scoffs at his poor attitude and tells him there's no reason to act all upset towards her. He begins arguing with her, telling her she never told him she was leaning towards keeping Nicola. He feels like he was played because now Nicola will take her to Final 2 over him. Avery Lee tells Bane that's not why she did that. She tells him that Sierra has been acting up right before the vote, continuously asking her if they were good. She felt like if she kept Sierra and Sierra were to win final immunity, she would take him to Final 2. Bane sighs and says that Sierra has asked the same to him. Avery Lee apologizes if she hurt him and asks him to forgive her. Bane hugs her and claims it's just a game at the end of the day, so he won't be mad at her. Nicola walks towards them and asks if they're okay. Bane says they are and that he obviously did not see that last vote becoming a tie. He thought Sierra was staying for sure. Avery Lee decides to head to sleep, claiming her head hurts after everything that just went down. Avery Lee leaves Bane and Nicola to chat, so Bane uses this opportunity to convince Nicola to take him to Final 2. He tells her if he wins final immunity, he's going to cut Avery Lee because she has been playing for herself the last few tribals. Nicola nods and says that Avery Lee likely has a lot of jury votes because of her under-the-radar gameplay. Not to mention, she never received a vote this entire game. Bane asks Nicola if she plans to vote Avery Lee out if she wins immunity, and Nicola says she will. She feels like neither of them can beat Avery Lee in a Final 2 situation. It's day 29, and it's time for the final immunity challenge. Bane hands back the necklace and Justin begins explaining the rules. This final challenge will consist of a few rounds. Each round will be a different type of challenge that might be familiar from a previous challenge this season. Each round, the person who wins the mini challenge will score a point. The first person to win 2 mini challenges will win final immunity. There are only 3 mini challenges, so if each person wins 1 round, a decision must be made as to what mini challenge they do as a tiebreaker. The first mini challenge commences, a painting challenge. The goal is to have the highest painting value. Bane and Nicola finish painting first, and Avery Lee finishes behind them. The scores are tallied, and in third is Avery Lee with $109. Second place received a value of $139, and first place had a value of $163. The person with the highest value, winning the first mini challenge round is Bane. If Bane wins 1 more, he wins final immunity. The second mini challenge commences, where all 3 must shape the most bonsai trees correctly with only 3 attempts. In the first set, Nicola shapes her bonsai correctly. In the second set, all 3 fail to shape their bonsai correctly, leaving Nicola still in the lead. In the final set, Bane shapes his correctly, meaning there's a tie between Nicola and Bane. In a rematch round where they shape another bonsai, Nicola ends up shaping hers correctly, meaning Nicola scores a point. In the third challenge, the 3 need to race to finish their block puzzle, and all 3 start building. Avery Lee takes an early lead as she starts putting pieces together fairly quick right off the jump. Bane starts to catch up to her, smelling his victory. However, Avery Lee finishes before him and wins the third mini challenge round. This means all 3 are tied up and have to decide on which challenge they will finish off with. They all decide to do painting because none of them want to do the bonsai or puzzle again. The painting round commences, and all 3 paint identically. They all finish, and in third place with $134 is Nicola. It comes down to Avery Lee and Bane. One of them got $137, and the other received $147. The winner of the final immunity challenge is Bane. Nicola and Avery Lee congratulate Bane on his win. They return to the mat and Justin places the necklace around Bane's neck. He confirms that Bane is guaranteed final 2 and will have a shot at the title of sole survivor. The three must head to Tribal Council straight away, where Bane will cast the final vote to eliminate either Avery Lee or Nicola. They all head out. It's night 29, and Bane, Avery Lee, and Nicola arrive to Tribal Council. They sit down and check out the jury of 8, knowing there will only be one more juror added there. Justin begins the discussion and asks Bane what his thoughts are for tonight's vote, knowing he's the sole decider. Bane admits this decision is very important for him because he sees positives for voting both women out. He says Nicola has great jury management, while Avery Lee has played a lot of people this season, especially in the end game, which could earn her some respect from the jury. Justin asks Nicola why Bane should keep her, so Nicola starts by saying that she hasn't made a huge impact on the game, especially in the merge, as someone who has been on the outs for a while. Although people claim she has good jury management, she feels like that's not enough to justify a win for her. She feels like Avery Lee has played a much better game because she has a really good social game. She adds that Avery Lee never received a vote against her, backing up the fact that she's great socially. Justin then asks Avery Lee why she should stay, and Avery Lee faces Bane, telling him that if he votes her out tonight, Nicola gets all the credit for it. She reminds Bane that they have worked together since the swap, so by turning on her like this, it makes Nicola look better because people will know she influenced his decision. She argues that Nicola has locked in votes from people like Antonio, Jonathan, and Iran. By taking her to final 2 after her speech just now, it likely earns her another 2 votes, which wins her the game. She tells Bane that he's better off with her than with Nicola in final 2. She looks back at Justin, cueing that she's done with her pitch. Justin lets Bane know it's time to vote. Let's see how Tribal turns out now.
I'll get the vote. I'll read the vote. Nineteenth voted out and the 9th and final member of the jury.
Nicola frowns and then gets up, cracking a smile. She lets Bane know she's not bitter at all. He apologizes to her and Avery Lee lets her know she played well. Nicola thanks them and puts her torch down, watching it get snuffed by Justin. She waves goodbye to them and the jury and walks out. Bane grins and calls out "Good game." Justin then faces Bane and Avery Lee and congratulates them for reaching the furthest stage of the game. He tells them they will face the jury tomorrow night. The two of them must pitch to the jury why they should win, and then the jury will ask questions. After that, the jury will vote for who deserves the title of sole survivor. Bane and Avery Lee begin heading back to camp, hugging each other on their way out. Nicola's final thoughts. Getting to final 3 is impressive on its own for Nicola. She is grateful that she even got the chance to play survivor. She's not upset at all at Bane for voting her out because Avery Lee had a darn good pitch against her. She feels like Avery Lee played the most people, but that's something she will have to respect as a juror. She cannot wait for tomorrow night's final Tribal Council to hear their games in full. Day 30. Avery Lee and Bane find a table with food ready for them, so they take a seat. Avery Lee thanks him for saving her yesterday night, and he tells her he was almost convinced to take her out after chatting with Nicola before the immunity challenge. Avery Lee says that Nicola was locked in to win, especially after her final pitch last night. Bane nods and says he knew right away that he was getting played. Both of them decide to eat and enjoy their final meal on Survivor. Bane walked into this game thinking he would bro down, but he immediately changed once he started bonding closely with people like Angel and Annette. After losing Angel, he knew he was on the outs, so he found a new ally in Antonio who he swapped with on New Takakai. That's where they found Avery Lee as a new ally for them, creating a powerful trio that would run most of the game after that. Bane thinks he can win the jury over if he talks about his underdog run, going from being on the bottom to being in a great spot almost all of the merge stage. Avery Lee came into this game with a strong trio with Kenny and Monica, Kenny being someone she found romantic interest in. However, she lost both of those allies back to back, so she used her social game to adapt and become a beneficial number for other people like Sierra and Caleb. Her social game ultimately saved her from danger early on, and after that, she cruised this game without being mentioned as a target until the very end. She feels like the fact that she never received a single vote this season goes to show how good she played. She manipulated many people this season, especially near the end where she got her way almost every time. Night 30 hits, and it's final tribal council time. Justin welcomes the final 2 and the 9 jurors and explains the format of tonight. He says that Avery Lee and Bane will get to pitch their case to the jury. After that, the jury will ask questions one at a time for a finalist of their choice. Then, the jury will vote for a winner. With that, Justin lets Avery Lee and Bane know they will start off with their pitches now. Avery Lee goes first and faces the jury. She says that her game has changed drastically since day 1. Day 1, she was clearly blinded by isolating herself with her 2 closest allies, Monica and Kenny. After losing them, she needed to adapt with her social game. She got in with Sierra and Caleb to spare her once they reached 5 members on Tatakai, and they did after voting Robin out, someone who literally saved them and almost went to rocks for them. Then in the swap, she sided with Bane and Antonio, realizing she had Bane on lock. She made merge in a majority group, but remained open-minded with original Reibu to keep them from voting her. It worked out for her since they started coming to her, wanting her to vote with them. Once jury started at final 11, she took her shot against Cindy, someone who had so much control within the majority alliance. After that, the majority crumbled, and she, Bane, and Antonio ran the rest of the game with almost everyone continuing to trust them. Once final 6 came, she played both sides to remain off of people's radars. However, at final 5, she realized that Antonio has caught onto her. Despite her targeting him there, he still did not vote for her, showing that she got to him before he could go for her. At final 4, she needed Nicola in final 3, knowing that Nicola would hopefully take her to final 2 while Sierra would probably take Bane. At final 3, she knew Nicola was good with her words, so she needed to pitch that Nicola had the jury on lock and that Bane was better off voting her out. It worked in the end, and she knows that because Bane admitted to her during their final 2 meal that Nicola almost convinced him to take her to final 2. Avery Lee reminds the jury that she never received a single vote this entire season, so that on its own shows how well she integrated herself within different alliances to keep her name off of the chopping block. She ends her pitch, so Justin lets Bane know it's his turn. Bane begins by thanking everyone for a wonderful experience. He says that funnily enough, he also started off on the bottom this season. He was blindsided on the first vote where his closest ally, Angel, went home. He felt lost for a while, but his game finally picked up once he realized Daryl could become a target on his tribe for playing too hard. He tried not to play hard himself so that others would target Daryl. Daryl ended up going home unanimously, and then the swap occurred. He stuck to Antonio and immediately bonded with Avery Lee to get her on his side so that Reibu would go home if they were to go to tribal. After losing their first challenge as a swap tribe, Avery Lee indeed sided with them and voted Nylene, leaving him and Antonio in a great spot. At the joint tribal before merge, Antonio used an idol on him successfully. Without keeping a good relationship with Antonio probably doesn't use the idol on him. In the merge, he was able to fly under the radar. He wasn't in the loop during the Cindy vote, but he remained cool about it with Antonio and Avery Lee, who were part of the Cindy blindside, and neither of them lost trust with him. At Final 10, he knew that Marvin and Sierra needed to be isolated so they would become the new targets over him. That's why Final 7 became a crucial vote for his game. He needed Marvin out because he knew Nicola and Jonathan would likely be more loyal to him and his two allies. At Final 6, he knew Jonathan was too strong in challenges, so he had to go. Final 5 was another pivotal moment for him because that's when he cut Antonio. He knew Antonio had a good chance of winning the whole game. He overall felt much closer to Avery Lee anyway, so he wanted to protect her from going home. At Final 4, he was blindsided because Sierra went home, but it did not matter because he had all the power at Final 3 after winning immunity. He was still able to send Nicola home, and to defend himself after Avery Lee just claimed she convinced him to vote Nicola out. It's partially untrue because Nicola talked herself onto the jury. He knew just based on her pitch that she needed to go. Therefore, Avery Lee did not convince him, but instead it was Nicola herself. He ends the pitch and faces Justin. Justin thanks both of them for their pitches and tells the jury that it is their turn to come down one by one and ask one of the two finalists a question. Cindy heads up first and sighs. She looks down for a moment and then addresses Avery Lee. She asks her why she felt the need to play a flip-floppy game and why she played with fire by trusting original Rebu really early in the merge. Avery Lee responds by claiming she had a fairly good relationship already built with Nicola from Final 12 when they first merged. She knew how desperate she was for numbers, so she sided with her to get on her good side. She also knew how powerful Cindy was as a player as she kept the majority alliance together. She had too much control and needed to go before it was too late to take a shot at her. Cindy doesn't say anything in response and heads back to her seat. Borneal then heads up and congratulates the two of them, without cracking a smile for a single second. He asks Bane what game move he can claim as his own. Bane says that taking out Nicola was his own move that would ultimately give him a much better chance at winning. He feels like he and Avery Lee played side by side all game, so taking her to Final 2 would be much smarter. He has an edge over Avery Lee because he has better jury management than her. Borneal admits he's not impressed by the answer because he's claiming his best move was at a time where only he could vote. He returns to his seat, congratulating Avery Lee for winning his vote. Annette heads up next and shakes her head bitterly. She tells Avery Lee she's not going to ask her a question because she despises what she did to her at Final 10. Avery Lee's smile erases from her face. Annette asks Bane to explain to her and the jury why his 0 to hero game was better than Avery Lee's. He says that he actually started off this game in a solid position. The only reason he was on the wrong side of the vote was because of a failed split vote. According to Avery Lee, her alliance didn't do good enough work to keep Robin on side, so they got flipped on and were almost picked off completely. He feels like just for that reason, his 0 to hero edit was better than hers. Annette thanks him for his answer and heads back to her seat. Aran is next and congratulates both of them for reaching Final 2. She says she has no hard feelings and wants to know from Avery Lee if she ever considered flipping on Bane this season. Avery Lee says she never considered voting him out because it simply did not make sense taking out the person who wanted her to stay in the game. He himself said he wanted to protect her near the end, so that was her ride or die ever since swap when they first met. This is unlike Antonio, who she clocked would go after her at Final 4, so she took the shot at him before he could shoot at her. Aran thanks her for the answer and wishes the two of them luck. Marvin is up next and he claims he cherishes loyalty and strength in this game. He asks Bane if he feels like he played a loyal game and a strong challenge game, and whether he did those things better than Avery Lee. Bane responds by first claiming he played with loyalty for most of the season. Of course, he couldn't play a loyal game the whole time because eventually, he knew he had to cut certain people like Antonio. In terms of challenges, he obviously won more than Avery Lee and felt like he had to fight for those wins more than she did. Avery Lee had to flip-flop more, which obviously damaged her relationship with some jurors. Marvin nods and wishes the two luck. Jonathan stands up next and laughs at how amazed he is by both of them. He says he did not expect them to make Final 2 because they seemed the most unlikely to reach this point. He asks Avery Lee if she knew he was going home at Final 6 and why she voted Antonio and then flipped in the re-vote. Avery Lee says she knew Jonathan would get 3 votes and that Bane and Antonio had no clue she would vote Antonio. She wanted to stay close to Nicola and force her to see her as her new number 1, which worked because it kept Nicola from targeting her. This also kept Nicola from potentially working with Sierra, who in an ideal world would have to work with her to take down the trio of her, Bane, and Antonio. By keeping Nicola on her side, she was able to take out Antonio while still having Nicola as a number going into Final 4. Not only that, but Nicola was a good shield for her at that point. Therefore, Final 6 was crucial for her to keep that facade up that she was still solid with Nicola. Jonathan thanks her for the response and sits back down. Antonio is up next and first claims that he obviously feels upset that he was blindsided at his vote off. However, after hearing why he was voted out, it makes so much sense to him. He asks Bane why he decided to be part of the blindside on him. Bane says that he ultimately saw Avery Lee as his ride or die over him, so knowing how paranoid Avery Lee was about Antonio, he wanted to keep her safe and avoid a situation where Antonio would work with Nicola at Final 4 to take Avery Lee out. He also knew that Avery Lee was weaker in challenges, so getting rid of Antonio would allow him to win the rest of the endgame challenges. Antonio smiles and wishes the two of them luck. Sierra is up next and she whips her hair back as she faces Avery Lee. She says she doesn't have a question, but would rather explain to Avery Lee why she deserves to lose. She says that she played this game like a rat, and rats never deserve to win Survivor. She made unnecessary lies and would never own up to her vote. She did this to so many people this season, including herself, Annette, Jonathan, Cindy, and probably even Eileen after hearing stories about Avery Lee being the perceived swing vote at that tribal. She finishes up by congratulating Avery Lee on second place because she played a scared game while other people played up front. She tells Bane she's not impressed with his game either, but at least he owned up to his votes more than Avery Lee. Sierra turns around and struts back to her seat. Avery Lee smiles and ignores the speech. Nicola is up last and she laughs awkwardly after hearing Sierra's speech. She says she feels the opposite about Avery Lee because she truly sees the powerful woman in her. Therefore, Nicola asks her one simple question: was Bane her puppet? Avery Lee grins and says he was. She remembers reaching the swap and Bane immediately went to her and tried to bond with her. She obviously knew it was for two reasons. One of them was because she was the sole Tatakai on the tribe of 5 with 2 Reibu members and 2 Tabrut, both sides fighting against each other. The other reason is because Sierra made a power move by bonding with Tabrut pre-swap. By giving up reward to them, it caused them to join forces against Reibu. That's why Bane was forced to work with her and not Reibu. Then, throughout the merge, Bane wasn't always filled in on plans, which makes his game look worse. From the swap and onward, she never voted in the minority. Bane did. Yet, Bane still trusted her after being left out a few times, such as the Cindy vote and the Sierra vote. She had more knowledge in the game than Bane, and of course, knowledge is power. Nicola smiles and congratulates the two of them for reaching this point. She heads back to her seat, and Justin lets the jury know they will now vote for a winner. Let's see how this all goes down.
I'll get the votes. Avery Lee and Bane, I have the 9 jury votes with me. However, I will read them in the states. Thank you for playing, and I'll see you all on stage. Good luck. Welcome to the finale, everyone. I am happy to announce that we will be crowning a winner of Survivor Japan tonight. Avery Lee and Bane both fought long and hard to reach Final 2 back in Japan. They made it through 30 days and were part of many blindsides and big moves. Ultimately, our jury of 9 decides who wins. I have the 9 jury votes with me right now, and I will read them out loud one by one. The magic number to win is 5. Avery Lee and Bane, are you two ready? Because I am. I'll read the votes. First vote. Avery Lee. Bane. 1 vote Avery Lee, 1 vote Bane. Avery Lee. Bane. We are tied, 2 votes Avery Lee, 2 votes Bane. Bane. That's 3 votes Bane. Avery Lee. Tied again, 3 votes Bane, 3 votes Avery Lee. Avery Lee. 4 votes Avery Lee, 3 votes Bane. The winner of Survivor Japan, Avery Lee. Congratulations to Avery Lee on winning the title of Sole Survivor. I'm happy to announce that this show will renew for a 5th season. Once the show officially ends tonight, you will get a sneak peek into next season. For now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.